I sat at my parents' dining room table surrounded by 17 relatives while my father explained, for the third time that evening, exactly what was wrong with my life choices. 27 years old, Dad said, shaking his head with profound disappointment. Most people your age are establishing real careers. Your cousin Brian just made partner at his law firm. Your sister Jennifer runs an entire marketing department. And you're still playing around with stock market apps on your phone like it's a video game. I cut into my turkey and said nothing. Richard, don't be too hard on Alex, Mom interjected, though her tone suggested she agreed with every word. Not everyone can be as successful as Jennifer and Brian. Some people are just late bloomers. Late bloomers have potential, Dad countered. Alex is 27 and has nothing to show for it. No real job, no career prospects, living in that tiny apartment, spending all day staring at stock charts. My sister Jennifer, seated at my father's right hand in the position of honor, smiled sympathetically. At 31 she was everything our parents had dreamed of: six-figure salary, corner office, married to a surgeon, currently pregnant with their first grandchild. Have you thought about applying to real companies? She asked, her voice dripping with concern. I could probably get you an interview at my firm. Maybe for an entry-level marketing coordinator position? It wouldn't pay much at first, but it's a foot in the door. I appreciate the offer, I said quietly. The problem is you can't even afford a real financial advisor, Uncle Tom chimed in. He was a dentist who considered himself a financial expert because he'd once attended a wealth management seminar. Trading stocks on your phone with those free apps. That's not investing, Alex. That's gambling. Robinhood, my cousin Brian said with a laugh. He was the golden boy lawyer, 34 and insufferably smug. You're using Robinhood, aren't you? The app for people who can't afford real brokers. Jesus, Alex. I use several platforms, I said mildly. Several gambling apps, Dad corrected. Meanwhile, you're barely scraping by. That apartment you're renting can't be more than 500 square feet. You drive a 15-year-old car. You can't even afford decent clothes. I glanced down at my outfit, jeans and a button-down shirt from Target. Simple, comfortable, practical. I didn't mention that my tiny apartment was actually a two-bedroom condo in Lower Manhattan that I'd purchased outright 3 years ago for $2.3 million. Or that my 15-year-old car was a classic Porsche 911 I'd restored myself, currently valued at around $180,000. It was easier to let them believe what they wanted. The worst part, Mom said, her voice quivering with maternal disappointment, is that we paid for your education at NYU. A good school. And what are you doing with that economics degree? Playing with stocks on your phone. Day trading, Aunt Caroline added with a disapproving sniff. She was a real estate agent who'd read one article about day trading and considered herself an expert. That's what they call it. Day trading. Basically gambling. 95% of day traders lose money. I've heard that statistic, I said. And yet you keep doing it, Jennifer said, shaking her head. Alex, I love you, but you need to face reality. This stock market hobby isn't going to pay your bills. You need a real job with real income. How much do you actually make from this? Brian asked. Be honest. What's your annual income from trading stocks? I took a sip of water. It varies. That means not much, Dad translated. Probably loses more than he makes. Alex, I'm going to be direct with you because I care about you. This needs to stop. You're 27. It's time to grow up, get a real job and start building a real career. Your father is right, Mom added. We're worried about you. You have no savings, no retirement plan, no health insurance. I have health insurance, I interjected quietly. Some cheap catastrophic plan that doesn't cover anything, Mom waved dismissively. Nothing like what Jennifer has with her company benefits. In the living room, the TV was on. Some financial news channel that Uncle Tom had insisted on watching. The sound was muted, but I could see the ticker scrolling across the bottom of the screen. The thing about the stock market, Uncle Tom continued, warming to his lecture, is that it's designed for professionals. People with MBAs, decades of experience, access to insider information. Not some kid with a phone app. Day traders think they're smarter than the market, Brian added. Classic Dunning-Kruger effect. They don't know enough to realize how little they know. Exactly, Dad agreed. Alex, you're not smarter than Wall Street professionals who do this for a living. I never said I was, I replied. Then why do you keep doing it? Jennifer asked, genuinely puzzled. If you know you can't beat the professionals, why waste your time? My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. It was probably my executive assistant wondering why I hadn't responded to the email about tomorrow's board meeting. I think he's addicted, Aunt Caroline said. I read an article about gambling addiction. Day trading triggers the same dopamine response as slot machines. That's a good point, Mom said, her eyes widening with fresh concern. Alex, do you think you might have a gambling problem? We could get you help. There are support groups. I don't have a gambling problem, I said. Denial is part of addiction, Uncle Tom said knowingly. My phone buzzed again. Then again. Someone was calling repeatedly. See. Dad pointed at my pocket. Can't even put the phone down during Thanksgiving dinner. Probably checking stock prices. This is exactly what we're talking about. Let me just. I started to reach for my phone. No, Dad said firmly. No phones at the dinner table. That's the rule. Whatever stock tip you're chasing can wait until after we finish eating. It might be important, I said. More important than family? Mom asked, hurt in her voice. I left the phone in my pocket. It stopped buzzing. You know what Alex needs? Brian said. A real mentor. Someone to show him how actual finance works. I have a friend at Goldman Sachs. Maybe he could explain to Alex why retail trading is a waste of time. That would be wonderful, Mom said eagerly. Alex, would you talk to Brian's friend? Get some professional advice. Sure, I said just to end the conversation. See, this is progress, Jennifer said encouragingly. Admitting you need help is the first step. My phone started buzzing again. This time it didn't stop. For God's sake, Dad said. Just turn it off. Dad, I really think. Turn it off, Alex. We're having a family dinner. I pulled out my phone to silence it and saw the caller ID. James Morrison, chairman of Morrison Capital Group and one of my largest investors. He didn't call on Thanksgiving unless something was critically important. I need to take this, I said, standing up. No, you don't, Dad said. Whatever penny stock you're trading can wait. Dad, this is actually... Sit down, Alex. Show some respect for your family. I sat back down and declined the call. Almost immediately a text appeared from James. Call me he. Bloomberg is running your profile as breaking news. My stomach dropped. Everything okay? Jennifer asked, noticing my expression. Fine, I said. In the living room, Uncle Tom suddenly turned up the TV volume. Breaking news from the financial world, a Bloomberg anchor was saying. We're now learning the identity of the mysterious fund manager behind Apex Capital Management, the hedge fund that's generated an astonishing 43% return over the past 3 years. The room went quiet. Uncle Tom was a finance news junkie. Apex Capital manages approximately $4.2 billion in assets, the anchor continued. And in a surprising revelation, the fund's manager and majority owner is just 27 years old, making them the youngest hedge fund manager controlling a portfolio of this size in modern financial history. My family was watching now, attention split between the TV and their plates. We're going live to our financial correspondent Maria Rodriguez, the anchor said. Maria, what can you tell us about this remarkably young fund manager? A new face appeared on screen, a sharp-looking woman standing outside a familiar building. My building. Thanks, David. I'm here outside Apex Capital's headquarters in Manhattan's financial district. The fund's manager, Alex Morgan, has maintained an extremely low profile since founding Apex 4 years ago at the age of 23. My mother's fork clattered onto her plate. According to SEC filings just released today, Maria continued, Morgan has grown Apex from an initial $50 million in seed capital to its current $4.2 billion through a combination of quantitative analysis, algorithmic trading, and what insiders call an almost supernatural ability to identify undervalued assets. That can't be right, Dad said quietly, staring at the screen. Morgan graduated from NYU with a degree in economics, Maria went on, and immediately founded Apex using a proprietary trading algorithm they developed during their senior year. The fund has never had a losing quarter and maintains one of the lowest expense ratios in the industry. The screen switched to a photograph. My photograph. The professional headshot my PR team had prepared for exactly this moment, knowing my identity would eventually go public. "Oh my God," Jennifer whispered. "Is that..." Mom couldn't finish the sentence. "Perhaps most remarkably," Maria continued, "Morgan still personally manages the entire portfolio, refusing to delegate trading decisions to junior analysts. Sources close to the fund say Morgan often works 18-hour days and has turned down acquisition offers from larger firms that would have made them an instant billionaire several times over." "This is a mistake," Brian said, but his voice lacked conviction. "There's probably another Alex Morgan. It's a common name." The TV showed footage now, me walking into my office building 3 days ago when someone with a camera must have caught me. I was wearing the same Target button-down I was wearing now. "Speculation about Morgan's net worth varies," Maria said, "but analysts estimate that their personal stake in Apex Capital, combined with their own investment returns, puts their current net worth somewhere between $800 million and $1.2 billion. Complete silence in the dining room. "The financial community is buzzing about this revelation," Maria continued. "Many are comparing Morgan to legendary investors like Warren Buffett and Peter Lynch, noting that Morgan achieved this success by age 27, younger than either of those investors were when they started their careers." My phone was buzzing nonstop now. Calls, texts, emails flooding in. "We reached out to Apex Capital for comment," Maria said. Their head of investor relations provided this statement. "Mr. Morgan has always prioritized results over publicity. While he values his privacy, he recognizes that transparency is important for our investors and the broader financial community." The screen showed my office building again, then cut back to the studio anchor. "Remarkable story, Maria. What's next for Alex Morgan and Apex Capital?" Sources tell us Morgan is considering taking Apex public within the next 2 years, which would make it one of the youngest hedge funds ever to IPO. But for now, Morgan continues to manage the fund personally, maintaining the same intensive hands-on approach that's generated those extraordinary returns. Uncle Tom muted the TV. Everyone was staring at me. "Alex," Mom said faintly. "That was you." "Yes," I said simply. "You manage $4.2 billion? Dad's voice cracked slightly. "As of this morning's market close, it was $4.237 billion. Probably changed during trading today, but yes, approximately that." "And your worth?" Jennifer couldn't seem to finish the sentence. "The estimates are roughly accurate. Closer to the higher end." $1 billion, Brian said. "You're worth $1 billion. Approximately, yes." The silence was profound. "But you said you used Robinhood," Brian said weakly. "I use multiple trading platforms," I corrected. "Including Robinhood for certain types of trades. It's an efficient platform for retail-sized positions. I also use interactive brokers, Bloomberg terminal and proprietary systems we've developed at Apex." "Apex," Dad repeated. "You own a hedge fund." "I founded it 4 years ago with $50 million in seed capital from Morrison Capital Group. James Morrison gave me a chance when no one else would. 23 years old, no track record, just an algorithm I'd developed and a lot of conviction." "The tiny apartment," Mom said. "You said you lived in a tiny apartment." "I live in a 2-bedroom condo in Tribeca. It's 1,400 square feet. That's tiny by suburban standards but fairly standard for Manhattan. I paid $2.3 million for it 3 years ago. Current market value is around $3.1 million. "The old car," Jennifer said. "Dad said you drive an old car." "A 1974 Porsche 911 that I restored. It's a collector's item. Worth about $180,000, though I'd never sell it. I also have a Tesla Model S for daily driving, but the Porsche is more fun." Uncle Tom found his voice. "Why didn't you tell us?" "I tried," I said. 4 years ago when I founded Apex, I tried to explain what I was doing. Dad said I was wasting my time with stock market games. When I tried to explain my returns, you said I was making up numbers. When I showed you my SEC filings, you said they must be fake." Dad's face had gone pale. "I don't remember. Last Thanksgiving," I continued, "I mentioned I'd had a good quarter. You said day traders always think they're doing well until they lose everything. 2 Thanksgivings ago I tried to explain my investment strategy. Uncle Tom interrupted to lecture me about how retail investors can't beat the market. But $4 billion, Aunt Caroline whispered. How could we not know? I kept a low profile intentionally, I said. Publicity makes it harder to execute certain trades. The SEC requires disclosure of positions over certain thresholds, but those filings are technical documents that most people don't read. I've been careful to avoid media attention until now. Until Bloomberg exposed you, Brian said. Until my investors wanted an IPO, I corrected. Going public requires a certain level of transparency. We've been preparing for this reveal for 6 months. The Bloomberg piece was coordinated with my PR team. My phone continued buzzing. I glanced at it. James Morrison, my head of investor relations, my lawyer, 3 journalists requesting interviews, and 2 private equity firms with acquisition offers. I need to make some calls, I said, standing. This is going to be a busy evening. Wait, Dad said. Alex, I don't understand. How did you do this? I looked at him. My father, who'd spent 2 decades building a successful regional accounting firm, who understood money and finance better than most people, who genuinely believed I was wasting my life. I developed a quantitative model during my senior year at NYU, I explained. It identified market inefficiencies in mid-cap tech stocks. I back-tested it for 5 years of historical data and it showed consistent alpha generation. I pitched it to 47 investment firms. 46 rejected me. James Morrison was number 47 and he gave me a chance. Just like that? Jennifer asked. Not quite. He invested $50 million with the stipulation that if I lost more than 15%, he'd pull the capital immediately. My first quarter I returned 19%. Second quarter 23%. By the end of year 1, I generated a 48% annual return. Word spread quietly. High net worth individuals started asking to invest. I took on capital selectively, only from investors who understood my strategy and would commit long term. And now you manage $4 billion, Mom said, still sounding dazed. And now I manage $4.2 billion for approximately 200 investors. Minimum investment is $10 million. We're closed to new capital until after the IPO. Uncle Tom cleared his throat. Alex, I don't suppose. I have about $200,000 in savings. Is there any way? The minimum is $10 million, I repeated. No exceptions. It's an SEC requirement based on our fund structure. Right. Of course. He looked disappointed. Although, I added, after we go public, retail investors will be able to purchase shares. The IPO should happen within 18 to 24 months. I'd like to invest, Brian said quickly. When you go public. I'd definitely like to invest. We'll have a standard IPO process. Anyone can participate. My phone rang again. James Morrison. I needed to take this call. Excuse me, I said, walking out to the backyard. Alex, thank God, James said when I answered. Have you seen the coverage? Just Bloomberg. I'm at Thanksgiving dinner with my family. It's everywhere. CNBC, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times. Your photo is trending on Twitter. The narrative is perfect. Young genius disrupts traditional finance. Exactly what we wanted. Good. We're getting interview requests from everyone. 60 Minutes, Bloomberg TV, the Journal's front page. How do you want to handle media? Selectively. I'll do 1 or 2 high-profile pieces. Bloomberg first since they broke the story. Then maybe the Journal. No tabloids, no personality profiles. Keep it focused on the fund's performance and our investment philosophy. Agreed. Alex, this is going to change your life. You understand that. I looked back at the house where my family was visible through the window, all talking animatedly, gesturing, probably trying to process what they'd just learned. I know, I said. Privacy is gone now. People will recognize you. Investors will court you. Competitors will analyze your every move. That's why we prepared for this, James. I know. But preparation is different from reality. How are you holding up? Fine. Mostly amused by my family's reaction. He laughed. I bet. They thought you were a day trader with a Robinhood account. Something like that. Well, they know better now. Look, enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll regroup tomorrow and map out media strategy. But Alex, congratulations. This is the beginning of a new chapter. Thanks, James. I hung up and stood in the yard for a moment looking at the stars. Somewhere in the back of my mind I'd always known this day would come. You couldn't manage $4 billion in perpetual anonymity. Eventually the truth comes out. I just hadn't expected it to happen at Thanksgiving dinner. When I came back inside, the entire family was waiting in the living room. They'd abandoned dinner. Everyone clustered around the TV where CNBC was now running the story. "There's our little day trader," Jennifer said, and for once there was no condescension in her voice. Just awe. "I owe you an apology," Dad said. He looked shaken. "Alex, I'm so sorry. For everything I said tonight. For everything I've said over the past 4 years. I was wrong." "We were all wrong," Mom added. "We didn't understand what you were doing." "You didn't ask," I said gently. "I tried to explain. Multiple times. But you'd already decided what my life looked like, and you weren't interested in information that contradicted that narrative." "That's fair," Dad acknowledged. "That's completely fair." "Why didn't you push harder?" Jennifer asked. "Why didn't you make us listen?" "Because I didn't need your approval," I said simply. "I knew what I was doing. I had investors who believed in me, mentors who supported me, and results that spoke for themselves. Your opinion didn't change any of that." "But we're your family," Mom said. "Our opinion should matter." "It does matter," I assured her. "It mattered enough that your constant criticism hurt. But not enough to make me doubt myself." Brian was reading something on his phone. "Alex, there's an article here from the Journal. It says you turned down a $2 billion acquisition offer from BlackRock last year." "I turned down 3 acquisition offers actually. BlackRock at $2 billion, Citadel at $1.8 billion, and a private equity consortium at $2.3 billion. "Why?" Uncle Tom asked, genuinely baffled. "That's life-changing money." "I already have life-changing money," I pointed out. "What I have is a fund that I built, a strategy that works, and autonomy to execute my vision without interference. Selling to a larger firm would mean giving up control. I'm not interested in that." "But billions of dollars," Aunt Caroline said weakly. "My current stake in Apex is worth approximately $900 million at the most recent valuation. After the IPO, assuming markets remain favorable, that could grow to $1.5 billion or more. Why would I sell now?" Jennifer was reading her phone now too. "There's a profile of you in Bloomberg. It says you work 18-hour days. That you personally review every trade. That you've never taken a vacation since founding Apex. That's all accurate." "That's not healthy, Alex," Mom said, immediately shifting into mother mode. "You need work-life balance. You need—" "Mom," I interrupted gently, "I appreciate the concern. But I love what I do. I wake up excited to analyze markets. I go to sleep thinking about portfolio optimization. This isn't work to me. It's passion." "But don't you want more?" Jennifer pressed. "A relationship, family, a life outside of finance. Eventually, maybe. Right now I'm building something remarkable. I'm 27. I have time for the rest later." "The article says you still do your own laundry," Brian said, reading from his phone. "That you eat lunch at your desk every day. That you drive yourself to work instead of using a car service. All true. Why would I pay someone to do things I can do myself?" "Because you're a billionaire," Brian said as if it were obvious. "Being wealthy doesn't mean being wasteful. I don't need a car service. I don't need someone to do my laundry. Those things don't add value to my life." Dad was quiet, just watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "What is it, Dad?" I asked. "I'm trying to reconcile the Alex I thought I knew with the Alex I'm learning about," he said slowly. "The son I thought was wasting his life was actually building an empire. While I was lecturing you about getting a real job, you were managing billions of dollars. While I was worried about your studio apartment, you owned a multi-million-dollar condo. I'm the same person, Dad. The only thing that changed is your perception." "No," he said. "I think maybe I never really knew you at all." That hurt more than I expected it to. "You could have known me," I said quietly. "If you'd asked. If you'd listened. If you'd believed in me even a little." "I should have," he agreed. "Alex, I'm sorry. I'm genuinely, profoundly sorry. I accept your apology. But things need to change between us." "They will," he promised. "Tell me about your work." Really tell me. I want to understand. So I did. For the next 2 hours, I explained my investment philosophy, my quantitative models, my risk management strategies. I talked about market efficiency, alpha generation, portfolio optimization. I showed them my fund's performance data, explained our fee structure, discussed our plans for the IPO. And for the first time in 4 years, my family actually listened. They asked questions, intelligent questions, curious questions, questions that showed they were genuinely trying to understand. Uncle Tom wanted to know about my algorithmic approach. Jennifer asked about my team structure. Brian inquired about regulatory compliance. Even Aunt Caroline, who'd called me a gambling addict 2 hours earlier, asked thoughtful questions about risk assessment. Around midnight, my phone rang again. My head of investor relations. Alex, sorry to interrupt your holiday, but we have a situation. 3 major financial news networks want you for live interviews tomorrow morning. Bloomberg, CNBC, and Fox Business. Tomorrow's Black Friday. Markets are closed. Exactly. Perfect timing for media without interfering with trading. What do you think? I looked at my family, all watching me expectantly. Tell them I'll do Bloomberg at 9 a.m. and CNBC at 11 a.m. Nothing else until next week. I want the weekend to prepare talking points and coordinate with PR. Done. Also, we've received 42 new investment inquiries in the past 4 hours. All above our $10 million minimum. We're close to new capital, I reminded her. I know, but these are high-profile names. A Saudi prince, 2 tech billionaires, and several family offices. They're willing to wait for the IPO, but they want first access. Create a priority list. We'll review it Monday. Right now, I'm with my family. Of course. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, Alex. I hung up and found everyone staring at me again. Saudi prince. Jennifer asked faintly. Apparently. This is insane, Brian said. 4 hours ago we thought you were a failure. Now you're fielding calls from Saudi princes. I was never a failure, I corrected. You just thought I was. There's a difference. Dad stood up. Alex, can we talk? Just the 2 of us. We stepped out onto the back porch. The night air was cold, but the sky was clear. I've been thinking about what you said, Dad began. About how I never listened. About how I'd already decided what your life looked like. Dad. Let me finish. Please. He took a breath. You're right. I did that. I looked at your lifestyle. The simple clothes, the old car, the small apartment, and I made assumptions. I thought you were struggling. I thought you needed my guidance, my criticism, my push to do better. You were trying to help, I said. I was trying to feel superior, he corrected, echoing what I'd said earlier. You're my youngest child. You were always the quiet one, the one who didn't need attention, who didn't demand the spotlight. Jennifer was the achiever, always bringing home awards and accomplishments. You just did your own thing. And somewhere along the way, I decided that meant you weren't successful. I understand. But here's what I'm realizing now, he continued. While Jennifer was bringing home her college awards, you were developing algorithms. While Brian was celebrating making partner, you were founding a hedge fund. While I was criticizing your lifestyle, you were building something none of us could even comprehend. Dad, you don't need to. Yes, I do. Because you deserve to hear this. Alex, you're extraordinary. Not because you're wealthy, wealth can be luck. But because you had a vision, you believed in yourself when no one else did, and you executed flawlessly for 4 years. That takes intelligence, discipline, and courage that I clearly underestimated. I felt emotion rising in my throat. Thank you. I'm proud of you, he said. I should have been proud of you 4 years ago. Hell, I should have been proud of you regardless of your success. But I'm especially proud of the fact that you stayed true to yourself despite everyone doubting you. It wasn't easy. I'm sure it wasn't. And I made it harder. I'm sorry for that. We stood in silence for a moment. Can we start over? Dad asked. Can I be the father who supports you instead of criticizes you? I'd like that, I said. He pulled me into a hug. The first real hug we'd shared in years. When we came back inside, Mom had pulled out dessert and coffee. The TV was still on, now showing a panel discussion about my fund's performance. They're calling you a prodigy, Jennifer said. The Bloomberg anchor called you the Mozart of quantitative finance. That's excessive, I said. Is it though? Uncle Tom asked. Alex, 43% returns for 3 consecutive years. In an efficient market, that shouldn't be possible. Markets aren't perfectly efficient, I explained. There are small inefficiencies, fractions of a percent, that most managers ignore because the profit margin is too thin. But if you can identify them systematically, execute rapidly, and scale appropriately, those fractions compound into significant alpha. And you figured out how to do that at 23, Brian said, shaking his head in amazement. I had good mentors and a lot of luck. You had brilliance and work ethic, Dad corrected. Don't diminish what you've accomplished. My phone buzzed with a text from James Morrison. The Journal wants you for their front page tomorrow. Sunday edition. Largest circulation of the week. Yes or no? I typed back, yes. But I want approval on the final piece before it prints. Done. I looked around at my family, all watching me with new eyes. Respect where there had been condescension. Awe where there had been pity. Pride where there had been disappointment. It felt good. But it also felt bittersweet. Because this recognition came only after public validation. Only after Bloomberg and CNBC and the Wall Street Journal told them I was successful. If I'd failed, would they have ever believed in me? Alex. Mom's voice interrupted my thoughts. Are you okay? Yeah, I said. Just processing. This must be overwhelming, Jennifer said sympathetically. It's been a long time coming. I've known this would eventually happen once we decided to pursue the IPO. When you're on Bloomberg tomorrow, Mom said, wear something nice. Not that Target shirt. I laughed, the first genuine laugh of the evening. I have proper interview clothes, Mom. Don't worry. And maybe mention our family, she suggested. Your supportive family who always believed in you. Mom, I said gently. What? We do believe in you. Now. That's the point, Mom. You believe in me now because Bloomberg told you to. Not because I asked you to. She had the grace to look ashamed. You're right. That's not fair to you. No, it's not. But it's human. Most people need external validation before they can see what's right in front of them. Will you forgive us? She asked. Eventually. I already have, I said. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Going forward, I need you to trust me. Even when you don't understand what I'm doing. Even when my choices don't make sense to you. Can you do that? They all nodded. Good. Because there's something I haven't told you yet. What? Dad asked nervously. After the IPO, I'm planning to donate a significant portion of my wealth to establish a foundation for financial literacy education in underserved communities. How significant? Brian asked. Approximately 40% of my net worth. Around $400 million. Mom gasped. Alex, that's important to me, I finished. I grew up with advantages. Good education, supportive family, access to opportunity. Most people don't have that. I want to change that. $400 million, Uncle Tom said faintly. That's incredibly generous. It's incredibly necessary, I corrected. Financial literacy is the foundation of economic mobility. I want to give people the tools to build their own success. You're going to change thousands of lives, Jennifer said softly. That's the plan. We talked late into the night. About my foundation plans, about the IPO timeline, about my vision for Apex's future. And for the first time in 4 years, I felt like my family was actually seeing me. Not the failure they'd imagined. Not even the billionaire that Bloomberg had revealed. But me. Alex. The person I'd always been. Epilogue. 6 months later, I stood at the NASDAQ podium, about to ring the opening bell for Apex Capital's first day of public trading. My family was in the audience. Mom, Dad, Jennifer, Brian, Uncle Tom, Aunt Caroline, all of them watching with pride. James Morrison stood beside me, grinning. Ready to become very, very public? He asked. Ready as I'll ever be. Any regrets about the anonymity you're losing? I looked out at the trading floor, at the cameras, at my family, at the life I'd built through conviction and hard work. No, I said. No regrets. I rang the bell. The floor erupted in applause. Apex began trading at $47 per share. By end of day, it closed at $63, a 34% gain that made my personal stake worth $1.7 billion. But the number I cared about most wasn't my net worth. It was the text from Dad that came through at 4:01 p.m., right after the closing bell. Watched the whole thing. So proud of you. Not because of the money. Because of who you are. Love you, son. I typed back, love you too, Dad. And finally, after all these years, I knew he meant it. Not because Bloomberg told him to, but because he'd finally learned to listen.